Hey kiddos, today we're going to review how to read and write large numbers with decimals. So let's first get started with looking a little bit at a place value chart and how our place value is set up, and that will help us know how to read these very large numbers correctly. So the way that our place value is set up is that every three columns of places in our place value system is something called a period. And I like to put these little houses here. It kind of helps me remember there's the ones, house, and the thousands and the millions. And within the ones, we do have the ones, tens, hundreds. Then we go into thousands, and we have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. But every time we have three spaces in our place value, that becomes a different period, a different value. And these values just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the way that we separate those periods or place values, every three digits, we have a comma. And it's really going to help us when we read these large numbers, is that we read across just like we would from a book, from left to right. But whenever we come by one of these commas, we need to make sure that we say that comma's name, and that helps us really understand what the place value is. So this first comma's name is billion that you'll see here. Then we have million and thousand. Something else, another punctuation that we have when we are writing large numbers, is a decimal point. And the decimal point is always, always, always going to go right after the one. And that is because everything that is on the left of the decimal point is going to get larger, 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 multiplying by 10 each times, and our number and our amount is going to get very big and gets greater as it moves this way. But everything to the right of the decimal point is going to get smaller. Those portions are going to get smaller and smaller. So everything on the right of the decimal point is less than one whole. So we've got tenths. Tenths because we need 10 of them to make one. Then we have hundredths. We need 100 hundredths to be equivalent to one. And then we have thousandths. All right, so when we read a number, we are going to read whatever number it was within that period. Then we're going to actually say the comma's name. So the way that we would read this very large number is going to look like this. We'd start off by saying 13 billion. We don't forget the comma. Then look just in the next period and we see it as 670. And then we say the comma's name, million. Look at the next period, 243, and then we will say thousand. Then we look at the ones and we say 12. We do not say and 12, we simply say 12. Because the only time you should ever say and when you are reading large numbers correctly is when you have a decimal point. When the decimal point, when you are reading a large number, instead of saying point, we will say and. And this is how you read the decimal. You look at where the end of the decimal is. So in this case, we have 71, but that 1, that is the very last digit in our number, it is in the thousandths place. So the way we would read that decimal is 71 thousandths. Okay, let's read this whole number together now. And we've got from the beginning, going left to right like in a book, 13 billion, 670 million, 243,012, and 71 thousandths. All right, when we are asked to write this number in standard form or base 10 numeral, that is simply using the digits in the place value places like we just read them, and we put them together. You'll see we make sure that we put our commas to separate those periods so that we know where our ones, thousands, millions groupings are. And we also have the decimal to show that everything after the decimal is smaller than 1. Now let's practice how we would write this big giant number in word form or number name. The best way I can remember to make sure that I am writing this number name correctly is I read the number out loud again. And every word that I say out loud, I write down. So let's start at the beginning. We have to make sure that we say 13 billion, and that's what we're going to write down in words, 13 billion. Next, we have 670 million. We're going to write just exactly what we said out loud, 670 million. Now let's look at the thousands. We have 243,000, so we will write that as 243,000. Next we have 12, so we will just write the word 12. But what always comes right after the ones is that decimal point. And when we're writing this word out and when we're reading it out loud, when we see that decimal point, we write and say the word and. So we need to make sure that we put and into our number name. Now we're going to look again at our decimals, and to remember how we say the decimal, we still read what numbers we have. So I see 71, but I have to look at the last digit in our decimal place right here, and that's going to help me know what word to say and what word to write. So we're going to say this as 71 thousandths. So we will write after our and, it will say 71 thousandths. All right, let's try this a couple other times. Here we have a table, and they want us to say a number and show an amount in both number name or word form and also base 10 numeral or standard form. So in this first one, they are giving us the number in number name, 37 and 28 hundredths. Well, the first thing we read was 37. Then we read the word and. Do you remember what punctuation we put when we read and? It is the decimal place. And next we have 28 hundredths. Now to make sure I put this in the right place, I need to think about if I said the word hundredths or read the word hundredths in number name, that means the last digit is going to have to go in the hundredths place. So I know it says 28. So I'm going to make sure my 8 is in the hundredths place. Then I can put my 2 there. And now we've put in base 10 numeral what was in number name 37 and 28 hundredths. Now this time we're going to get a number that is given to us in base 10 numeral form, and we are going to put it in number name. So let's look at the number. I don't see any commas, so we're just kind of in that ones period, that ones house. But I'm going to look at what comes before the decimal, and when I read that, I see 102. So just as I say those words out loud, 102, I'm going to write the words 102. And right after 102 comes the decimal. So the word we say and the word we write when we see the decimal is and. Now I need to think about how I am going to say and write this decimal that comes after 102. So I see a 0, a 6, and a 7, and I know I can say that as 67. But I need to look at where that last digit is in my number, in my decimal, and I see that that last digit, that 7, is in the thousandths place. So we do have 67, but the way we would say and write that is 67 thousandths. So just like what we would say, we will write 67 thousandths. Thank you for watching this quick review on how to read and write numbers in the billions and down to the thousands. Now it's time to go find some practice and see what you can do on your own. Have a great day.